Peace and grand rising to the sovereign.
All sit and squat for the Pauline shit show this week. All sit and squat for Pauline's monkey show.
Main territory, Islam.
Grand rising, Empress. Well,
grand rising.
All right. Islam. Grand rising to the sovereign, original, indigenous, natural, divine heirs. Today is April the 25th, 1442 on the ancient moon calendar and 2021 on the ancient Greco-Roman calendar. We want to remind everyone about our symposium tomorrow. I have some information for the heirs that you will not want to miss. Know that the estate is here. The estate is here, period. And I think we all know that it's time for the heirs to be the heirs. So we have some information that we want to give to you, and then there's some work that we have to do. So initially, I did not think that when we stepped forward as the heirs that it was going to look anything like what we are accustomed to that looking like. And as we've been tested along the way, it didn't look anything like what we thought it was going to look like. I don't know about any of you, but stepping up as the heirs did not look like what we thought or what we've been programmed to think it's supposed to look like. So, because as soon as you say you're the heir, the testing begins. However, there comes a point in all of this where it actually does start to look like what we know it should look like. We're moving into that part now, and it's going to be just as gradual as the grand rising has been. We are in what is called acceleration mode, but it's going to take all hands on deck for us, the heirs, to manifest in this dimension that which we see for ourselves. So please, if you can, attend the symposium tomorrow. It will start at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and it's going to be on this same platform. There's some information and some documents and things like that where our heirship is concerned that we are going to be getting into. Having said that, there is some information with regard to perfecting of the liens that we have found, and many, there were thousands upon thousands upon thousands upon thousands. I have no idea how many liens were actually, that we've all actually filed. I know it's probably 500,000 probably by now, because I know some more who have done 300 and 400 liens just by themselves. And when you think about how many heirs there are lots and lots and lots and lots of liens that we have found, or that we know that have been filed. So, having said that, the liens are going to be a very key and integral part of where we're going as far as possession of the vast estate is concerned. The liens are actually one of the keys to possession of the buildings and things, everything that we see for ourselves. The liens are part of it, and the liens must be accompanied by a court action by the heirs. Each and every heir who is planning to possess property on the estate, you must, and I know some don't think that this is true, but it is, you must do court actions along with your lien so that there is a court order or a court command on the public record with regard to the property and the reversion of the estate and the possession of that property. I'm going to pull up just one of the things that we have found. But I would like to also make it clear that, because this is part of perfecting of the liens and possession of the estate, any state codes and statutes, and when I say state, I'm talking, for example, the Missouri Revised Statute, the Virginia Revised Statute, the New York State Code, or the New York State Code, whatever codes or statutes are there in your territory, look at them, because they actually contain the majority of the keys that we need for this point that we're at right now. And the reason why we say that is because we've been looking at the statutes that were written when the states were pretending to be sovereign. Because as you all know, and even through this pandemic, the states have been trying to be sovereign aside from quote unquote Donald Trump and them, and whoever else was pretending to be the head of the corporation. And that's not to demean anybody or anything like that. But the codes and statutes of those states and the way they did things, we have to actually take those, whichever ones we can use that are in alignment with the treaties and the Constitution, put them in red in all lowercase letters so that we can use them. Okay. I want to pull one up for you really quickly, just so that, and we'll be looking at this one, some of these tomorrow as well, where the symposium is concerned. Let's see. Because with regard to all of these codes and statutes, if any of them are in alignment and we want to use them, we must elevate them to the federal level, which is us, our federal level. No one else's, it's ours. Okay. So that way it applies all across the board. So for example, if there's a code or a statute that we see in the revised codes and statutes of the quote unquote state, then we can take that and make it a federal one, and then it applies all the way across the board. Okay. Let me pull this one up so that you can see exactly what we're referring to. Okay, can you see on the screen, there is a code on the screen with regard to disposing of vehicle, part, or equipment, or horse, mule, or animal subject to lien is a misdemeanor. Now, this is going to be key where conveyances are concerned. Just one. Hang on just a second. So you know how how we have stated that we put liens on the straw, the thing that was called a straw in black. It's actually a court in black and all uppercase letters. We've been leaning those, and then leaning any property that has to do with those. When you put a lien on those properties, and then let's say you get pulled over and a policy enforcer tows the property, and then they always talk about how they have, they have to sell it within 30 days and all of this and that. That is unlawful, and it's actually a crime for them to do that. And so on the screen it says disposing of vehicle, part, or equipment, or horse, mule, or animal subject to lien is a misdemeanor. So it says any person who shall sell, convey, or dispose of any vehicle, part, or equipment thereof, or any horse, mule, or other animal upon which there exists a lien without the written consent of the person holding said lien, and without informing the person to whom the same is sold or conveyed that said lien exists, or shall injure or destroy such vehicle, part, or equipment thereof, or such horse, mule, or other animal, or aid or abet the same for the purpose of defrauding or injuring the liener, or who shall remove or conceal, aid or abet in removing or concealing such vehicle, part, or equipment thereof, or such horse, mule, or other animal with intent to hinder, delay, or defraud such liener, shall be deemed guilty of a misdemeanor. And that's from 1915 laws, page, the public law, 1915, page 327. So what we would do with this is we would take this and put it in red in all lowercase letters. And if we need to edit it in any way, we can edit it and then still state where it came from. But wherever it came from, we put that in red in all lowercase letters too. Because all of these codes and statutes where these quote-unquote states are concerned, they copied them from us initially. When our ancestors first wrote them, they wrote them in red in all lowercase letters. And then when the hybrids saw that, they capitalized them and put them in black ink with capital letters, and then took them for their own. So when we see things like this, we can put it in red in all lowercase letters where the liens are concerned, and then do a court action on that, based on that. Because, see, what you're doing is elevating it to a federal level, because we are the de jure, we're the only de jure federal government, the Moors are. So as we're continuing to possess the estate and stop the fraud and stop the madness and stop all of the violations and all of that on our land, these are things that we can use in order to take full control of that which is ours. Now, with regard to conveyances, in a code like this one, instead of, when we rewrite it and put it back in its original form, which is in red and all lowercase letters, we would not say vehicle. We would call it a conveyance. We would use our sovereign language. Okay? We don't use their language. We use ours. So any words that need to be changed, we just change it back to what we call it. This particular code comes from the Missouri Revised Statutes. And when they say revised, they just took what we did and they put it in black and put it in and used uppercase letters. But the original is in red and all lowercase letters. because those who did it are the creditors, which is the heirs. That was our ancestors who wrote these originally, as they were governing their properties and things like that. Okay? So, just one. Just one moment. Okay. So what we're doing now is elevating everything up to the federal level, which is the government level. That's our level. Because we're the government. We always have been. There's never been any other that is the government. Having said that, tomorrow we get to see how all of this play where possession of the estate is concerned and our inheritance. The reason we're being given this information now is because everything that we're stopping is a part of our inheritance. Conveyances, there are conveyances that are a part of our inheritance that are far more valuable than the ones that we are around here in, that we've been using, but they've been set aside. There are also others that we're going to actually put together based on our own sovereign information that we need to know how to protect it right now. And that's why we're being tested the way that we're being tested, and the information, we're being given the information that we're being given. Is so that we can ensure that the estate stays in our possession, that once we get it, no one can take it. So there are some other statutes that we're going to be federalizing. And when we say federalize, we don't mean federalize like the way the hybrids mean it. We spell it a little bit differently from the way they spell it, because it means something different from what they mean. And with federalizing, the word federal for us just means that it applies to everyone and not just certain ones. It applies to everyone. When we make something a law and we put it out, and this is all of us, whenever any of us put laws out there in red and all lowercase letters, it applies, and it's competent. It applies to everyone on the land. Everyone. There are no boundaries where our federal laws are concerned. The ones that we make, no boundaries. And when we say no boundaries, we mean no boundaries between here, Japan, China, Australia, anywhere. Everyone is bound by whatever law we put out there, or freed by it is actually a better way to put that. They're set free by the laws that we put out there. So, and, you know, as you know, those who are tuned in on social media, as you know, the heirs have been stepping forward in many of the other territories, Bulgaria, Japan, Australia, the UK, Guyana, French Guiana, Guadeloupe. We have consulates all over the earth because there are Moors all over the earth. And so when we put things out, and this is the way it's always been, when the law comes from this land right here by us, everyone everywhere already knows it applies to them. And that's why there was so much interest vested in us being free. Because when we're free, the whole earth is free. Everyone knows that. So there are some other Missouri revised statutes and some in Virginia. We found some ancient information in Virginia that they actually call ancient. Some ancient charters and things like that that our ancestors put in place. And all of that information is being used so that we can continue to claim and possess the lands that we are all on in our territory. Now, there's some information that we're going to give you tomorrow about exactly where to go to get the ancient records and the older records that they don't even put online. There's places in each one of our territories, those places exist in all the territories, where you can go to get ancient land records. And these are the records that, when the records were first hypothecated and capitalized, it's those records that we're looking for. So, for example, there are records from 1933 and 1925 and 1908 and 1871, etc., that are actually physically held in the territory. And with those records, you can look at them, and if there are any capital letters on the records, you know it's hypothecated because our ancestors didn't write like that. But by the same token, all they did, and the reason we want to see those records, is because all we have to do is write them in red and all lowercase letters, and they become the law record. It reverts everything back to what our ancestors did. There is a law, another law in the Missouri revised statute that we're going to be doing a court action on, and we're going to make it federal from our government, the Moorish National Republic federal government. Let me just take a look here. I want to pull up and show to you. That we're going to be making federal as well. This one is really important because, again, our records are ancestral anyway, and it's going to link us to our ancestors and jump clean over any fraud. So take a look at this one really quickly because we're going to be doing a court action, and this is a court action already. Let's see. Hopefully you can see this one on the screen. I'm going to make it a little bigger just so that we can see it. Okay. Can you see that on the screen, Aired? Islam. Okay. Thank you in the chat. It says, and this is from Chapter 62. It's from the Missouri Revised Statutes. This is Section 7285, and it's about liens and the rights of the assignee, etc. It says any person or persons, and we know we're not that. So again, when we elevate these, we take those words out and we put any sovereign or Moorish American. You know, we change the wording so that it matches what we want it to say, because that's all they did when they pulled those things down. We're lifting them back up. Having claims for which they are entitled to liens under this chapter, okay, and we'll just say who are entitled to liens in alignment with this law, because again, we're writing the law for ourselves. Any person or persons having claims for which they are entitled to liens under this chapter may assign to any other person or persons all their rights, title, and interest in and to such claims, and the assignee thereof may file a lien or liens therefore as provided in this chapter, and may bring suit in his own name, and we know we don't have names, etc., and include in such suit all claims assigned to him, and enforce such assigned lien or liens as fully as if such claims had been filed by the original claimant. What this is saying is that and this is how we're going to put it forth. When we put it in red in all lowercase letters, it's going to convey the message or the law that we convey when we invoke the treaty. When we invoke the treaty, all we're saying is our ancestors wrote that, and it applies to us too. So you treat us like you treated our ancestors with regard to anything that's going on. Well, we know that our ancestors did lien the service corporation. They had to lien them, and this information is in the note associated with the treaty on, I believe it's the Avalon Yale website. There are some notes that accompany each one of the documents there. And if you look in the notes, it discusses how the Moors had to stop a shipment of gold because the foreigners, colonizers, when they came here and they were going to take some gold back to England, et cetera, but they hadn't signed the treaty yet. And we were just saying, okay, we're going to stop that boat and we're going to hold it until you sign this document. And this was after we had given them, after they had done the Declaration of Independence and saying to us, hey, we promise to you our honor, our lives, and our fortunes if you'll just let us stay here. Because that's really what it's not a Declaration of Independence. It's really a prayer. It's a prayer. It's a pleading to the judge of the earth, which is all the Moors. So they didn't want to sign the treaty because it was going to make them behave. But we said, you don't get to take anything from this land and go anywhere with it until you sign this treaty. Because, see, we already know that the power of life and death is in our tongue. And anyone who's not obeying the law, the hybrids, the foreigners, anyone that's not obeying the law, there are consequences in our courts. That must be done lawfully where courts are concerned. That's why our courts are so important, because the courts is what keeps everything in alignment on the land. And when our ancestors leaned that ship of gold, and it was actually 3 of them, when they said, hold up, those don't go anywhere, we're going to stop them until they sign this treaty. Well, this statute right here that's on the screen, all it says is that anything that our ancestors put in place, we're party to it also. And we are our ancestors returned, so you all will do the same. We will get the same treatment and the same honor that our ancestors commanded from you on this land. Because if you really think about it, we are in the same beautiful scenario where we were then, we're there now. We're in our rightful place. There are some foreigners on our land. Those foreigners are subject to us. And we are saying, we're the law, we're the government, you all are subject to us, and we know how to put the law in place so that everything stays in order, because the land will be lawful. And we're actually moving into natural sovereign commerce on a massive scale. And when I say on a massive scale, please believe me, and don't believe me, you just watch. And don't just watch. We actually have to have all hands on deck. But we're going into massive commerce, sovereign commerce, gold-backed sovereign commerce. And we will be giving you more information about that tomorrow. It will, hopefully by the end of tomorrow's symposium, all of that will be clear about how we're going to proceed, where commerce is concerned, and what our inheritance looks like. And it's just a tiny little, we're just going to be introducing a speck of the inheritance tomorrow. Just a speck, just a small, little, tiny speck of the inheritance, and it's going to require us to continue in unity like we are. I will say this is the most unified I've ever seen us. This is the most, and it may not look like that to some, but I'm seeing that now that we know who we are, we're even willing to, agree to disagree in the name of unity, in the appellation of unity. We don't have to agree, but we do have to be unified, and we do have to keep moving forward together, because that's what government is. We're learning now what true unity really is and what that looks like, because, see, they used to call it a unified front. That's what it used to be called when we were asleep. It was a unified front. But now it's true unity, and it resembles a unified front, except when we're behind closed doors and we're disagreeing, and there's really not any closed doors, as it were, at this point. But our unity comes from being able to disagree vehemently and still honor each other's sovereign status. Okay? That is where our unity lies. That's where it is. Just one moment. Okay. So that is where, just a moment, I'm having to unlock the conference so some more can come in. And I do, again, want to ensure that we do not miss just one minute. Islam. I want to make sure Empress Minnie has, okay, there you are. Fine. Yes. In the chat, the unity is in our intent. Yes, I see nobility. Islam. So we want to be sure, as we're moving into sovereign commerce on a major scale, that we're all on the same page and that we're all continuing to move in a unified manner. What does that look like? That looks like, with the introduction of the information that will be coming out tomorrow at the symposium, it's going to look like us being able to, knowing that the resources are available and still being able to get along. This is going to be the test as we move forward. Okay. All of the resources are ready for us to use them. All of the resources on our land the path has been cleared. That clearing of the path is completely dependent on our ability to remain unified. We must, because we're going to need each other, and this will become clear tomorrow as we introduce the small part of the inheritance that we have uncovered. One part of the inheritance is going to need the other parts and vice versa. So we're all going to need each other in order for this to be even more prosperous and successful for all of us. We're going to need one another, and we're going to need one another. You know, hybrids won't even be the issue. They're not the issue now, really. I mean, you know, they just use some words and things like that, but those words can easily be muted. They're not the issue. The issue is we got to get along with the introduction of this portion of the estate that we'll be introducing tomorrow. And we have to determine in our spirit and in our hearts that no matter what, we're one. No matter what, we're one. So, and that's going to come with some spirit work that has to be done. We have to do our spirit work. It can sometimes be frustrating in some ways when some do the spirit work and others do not. And then the ones that are doing the spirit work have to put up with the ones that won't do the spirit work. That has to be done. So anyway, I digress off of what we're talking about, but it's really not a digression. It is a progression, because as we link ourselves in this dimension where the resources are concerned with what our ancestors did, we have to take the same rising tone that they took with each other. They stood together no matter what. And then when the fall came, there were 10, altogether there were 13 nations that were going to sign on to the treaty. It was either 12 or 13 that were going to sign on to the treaty. And of those 12 or 13 that were going to sign on, 10 signed on and the others did not, because the others did not want anything to do with the quote-unquote citizens. And we're going to have to really do our study on how our ancestors handled all of that so that we don't fall into the same trap of not being unified. We can disagree. There are some who disagree with red ink and all lowercase letters. Well, we've done the study. We already know that that's there. It's even mentioned in capitation is even mentioned in the Constitution at Article 1, Section 9, Clause 4. And it notes that capitation, which is just capital letters really, that's all it is that no capitation nor other direct tax is to be implemented. Okay. Well, that's what we've been saying all along, that the capital letters is how the debt is conveyed. And now we see, again, it's in the Constitution. They're saying no debt, no direct taxes, no debt is to be conveyed, no capitation. The word capitation is in the Constitution. directly linked with taxes and debt, which is what we've been saying about the capital letters all along. Those are the conveyance methods by which debt and taxes is conveyed. Some don't agree with that. We love them still, and we're going to keep loving them, because where we're going, we got to, you know, we had some, the churches taught us a little bit of unity, not much, a little bit of unity. The gang life taught some unity and being together no matter what. Some were willing to take the fall for others and all of that. This is different from both of those. This is even different from families that say they're unified. This is even more, it takes priority over that, because our families, quote unquote, families are of our blood, the ones who come from the same Stargate. So they're automatically included in this, in our unity, because they're going to be waking up too. That system over there, and that's what this acceleration is all about. The acceleration of the manifestation of the Grand Rising is making it so that that system over there is collapsing in on those who are choosing to stay in it. That system has to fold in, and it's gonna it's like a bull constrictor. It's just going to squeeze and squeeze and tighten and tighten and tighten and tighten until those who have not terminated those corporate contracts say to themselves, okay, I got to get out of here. I've got to terminate these contracts because they're not working for me. So as we continue in moving into this next degree of our inheritance, it's going to be key that we all read and do our own study, and also be able to stand on our own 2 feet sovereignly. Yes, we're there for one another. Yes, we're going to always assist one another, but that assistance only goes so far, because no one represents the heirs. No one represents. Yes, we're going to be there for each other. We're there for each other now. But we also, each one of us is sovereign. And so we each have to do our own study, and we have to do our own demonstration where freeing ourselves is concerned. And as we all free ourselves together, then we demonstrate as a nation and as the government. We're already the law. We're already the government. I cannot stress that enough. So don't let anybody tell you that you have to do any preparation, that, oh, we need to do this first, we need to do, no, we're already governing. Already, it's a wrap, done already. Governing is making sure that you are properly addressed by foreigners on your land, that they know that, no, you're not a U.S. citizen. We are actually the heirs to this land. That's governing, because that's going to be the linchpin for everything else in the estate, for all claims, for all land, all natural resources, and all commerce. The commerce piece is about to go on high. It really is. And some may not agree with me on this, but I'll say it anyway. We were always given the authority to employ ourselves. We've always been given the authority to employ ourselves. That's where we're going with all of this, is we must employ ourselves, and we have to use our own sovereign system. And we'll talk about the system tomorrow. I will say this about our banking system. Our banking system is going to, it has already started out very simple and very analog. Okay? Our analog banking system is already in play. We're going to do it the same way that the hybrids were doing it, which we thought it was some big fancy something. It really wasn't. All the hybrids were doing with that system called the quote-unquote SWIFT system. Some may be familiar with the SWIFT system. The SWIFT system is the financial conveyance method by which funds were transferred from one nation to another nation. That's the SWIFT system. So if we were buying something from Venezuela, we would use the SWIFT system instead of any other system. What does the SWIFT system look like? The SWIFT system is an electronic mail system on steroids, basically. All it is a group email of the nation, a group email of the nation, and whenever a nation got out of line or were sanctioned, then they were just muted in the group, and they couldn't put any requests in. They couldn't say we're sending these funds here or these funds there. The currency exchange always happened by email. That is why during their scandals and all of that, that email servers were so prominent in the corporate scandals where, you know, those doing business with Hillary Clinton and all of them, they had everything done by email, the banking between the nations. Never once did they ever pull out a suitcase filled with fiat and hand it over to the other nation. They never did that. Everything that was done by email, and they would say, okay, we're sending you 100 million Federal Reserve debt notes in exchange for, you know, your Chinese whatever, dolls, whatever imports you send, we're sending you 100 million by way of this email. And that would be put on record with the international banks. And then those international banks would, every time a shipment was sent, the international bank would be notified that, hey, we're sending $500,000 of these over there. We're sending them in, let's just say, renminbi, dollar, you know, Chinese money. We're sending them in that. And if you, bank, will do the conversion to United States dollars, that will tell us what the deficit is, if there be any deficit. And that's why currency exchange rates were so prominently displayed. It's so that everyone who was sending banking, doing this banking by email, by message, would know how much they're actually getting for the product. And then that whole setup would be placed on a public on a server that only the ones that were doing business as the heads of the nations and the financial centers were, they would be able to see it. And then they would just hand it to the news media and say, here, put this out there. That, oh, today China, you know, was sanctioned and we're not accepting any more of their stuff, you know, for 6 months or whatever. Or we have decided to take, and this is why the United States Corporation Company was able to freeze accounts, because they were the ones in charge of the email group. So they knew by email how much everyone had in their account. And anytime they wanted to freeze that account and take something out of it, they could. But there has to be a law behind that action, and there has to be a court action that has to do with that, and there has to be a lien filed. They had to have filed a lien and notified everyone in the group about the lien. That's how they did business. They did not use Federal Reserve debt notes for that. They did, but they didn't pull out green Federal Reserve debt notes and pass them. They never did that. They did everything by what's called private commercial paper. So we're going to do it the same way, our commerce, and we'll talk some more about that and about the benefits of it, because there are some benefits to that far outweigh being able to pull out a big case. And then all they did with us and the banks is, I'll just tell you about the banks today too. The banks and their relationship with the Federal Reserve goes a little something like this. The banks only needed, let's say the bank had 1,000 members. The banks only needed 100 of those members, or even 50 of those members, to be us. The other 850 or 900 depositors could be hybrids. And they would always put the 50 of us or 100 of us, let's just say it was 100 of us and 900 hybrids. The banks would list us under capital. When they say we have to raise capital, that just means we need some more sleepy heirs to put on our roll. We need some more sleepy heirs, and let it be some heirs who have a little bit of, they can bring some fiat with them, bring some fiat with them, and let's have 100 of those, but we can't go over 100. And the whole earth had certain numbers of us that they would let be a part of those banks. But it wasn't that many, very few. They only needed a few of us. We would be listed under capital, and they would base their bank's reserves on how many of us there were. And then they would say, okay, banks, you only need 10% reserves on the capital that you have. See, they put it in those terms, but they were just talking about us because we agreed to be the capital, because we were asleep. We didn't know that we're no name in capital letters. And then what they would do is they would have their reserves be 10% with 100 of us, and then they would call the 900 hybrids. They would say, okay, these are all depositors. But the depositors had no capital value because they're not the heirs. So whatever they brought to the bank is what they brought to the bank. And it was deposited. And they actually had deposits listed under liability, not assets. And then they would list the capital under liabilities, but the reserves that we guaranteed under assets. Because the reserves were actually dictated by the Federal Reserve, who would use the law to do that, the codes and statutes to do that. So the banks will say you only have to have 10% reserves on hand in case there's a bank run or whatever. And you only need 100 heirs. Now, if we do the, and this is what the banks were saying, if we do the math right, we really only need 50 heirs. And we can put our return on capital, we can make a greater return on capital with fewer heirs. let me put in the chat a video that I watched that gave a great explanation of that. They did an excellent, this guy, I mean, you can see the colonization all over the place, but it made it so clear now that we know what capital really is. Whenever those things doing business as Fortune 500 companies call themselves talking about capital, they're really just talking about the heirs. And it doesn't take many of us, because there were not as many of us. Just one moment. Just one moment. So let me, let's see. Justice C. Cannon Bay, are you here? Justice, are you here? If you can *6 to unmute yourself if you're here.
Islam.
Grand Rising. I wasn't sure whether you were. Let me stop where I am right now and give high honor to our guest today. It is President Christopher Cannon Bay. We are just so honored that you're here with us today. He is President of the United States of America Republic Moorish government. And I would love to just yield the floor to you and let you say whatever it is that's on your heart.
Islam. First, I want to say I see a lot of negative comments in the chat, and so what I first want to say is we gotta definitely stop doing that. Everybody.
Those are mostly hybrids. Those are hybrids that come into our meetings. Those are not the Moors doing that. Those are hybrids that come.
Them too. They need to stop. Them too. Because, and I'm gonna say this. You know, all negative energy. We already know what's gonna happen with all negative energy anyway. If they're not practicing love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, it's gonna be burned up from the root up. So we don't have to worry about the negative energies. But I do want to comment on some of the negative comments that's being made. You know, it's one thing to make negative comments. It's another thing to be actually active in your government or trying to be active in government or society itself, especially being Moorish Americans. We should have respect for anybody that's trying to teach or lead or take a stand for us as a people. We got to show respect. The second thing I want to say is, you know, everything that, you know, when we start off, when we all wake up, all of us are coming out of stage of mental slavery. So when we start waking up, each of us is just like if we was on a plantation and we found out the master had a heart attack. And we all decided, well, we out of here. We finna escape from the plantation. All of us not gonna go in the same direction when we break out and start running, trying to get to our freedom. All of us don't know how to get to the north. Everybody don't know to hide in the bushes, stay off the main roads, whatever. Okay, so I just want to kind of say that. But to get on the page of, what I think really need to be done. Because I want to say it like this. I don't say no. Any Moorish person that's teaching right now, I don't say that they're wrong in what they're teaching. I think everybody teaches to the best of their ability.
Just one moment. Go ahead, Nobility.
I think everybody teaches to the best of their ability, and what we have to do.
Go ahead.
What we have to begin to understand is that each person teaches to the best of their ability, based on their trials and tribulations through life, is going to give them a certain perspective to the things they read, the things they learn, how they perceive things, et cetera, et cetera.
Are you the president of her college? Can you?
Just one moment. Go ahead, Nobility. That's hybrid. Sorry.
Yeah, that's the guy that called himself, what's his name, Trevor?
Nah, that's one of his counterparts.
That's one of his counterparts?
Yeah.
Well, we ain't going to worry about them. They like to try to claim that they Native American, but we know they're not. And they're going to be in for a very rude awakening because we're the only ones that can save them while they fight against us. But we done saved them all this time. We freed them, we saved them, and we fought in every war for their freedom, et cetera, et cetera. So we're not going to worry about that. We're going to take care of our business, let them worry about us. We ain't going to worry about them.
Yeah.
We're just going to keep moving forward with what we're doing because we know what we're doing is right because we're seeking actual political rights and freedom. And as long as we're seeking political rights and freedom, anybody that's against a nation of people trying to obtain their political rights and freedom shows you their negative energy as well as their ignorance. Okay? The Most High give everybody the right to self-determination. Even an ant has the right to self-determination. And we as Moorish American people, of course, cannot keep sitting by idly, not seeking our true autonomy as a nation of people when they are giving cars autonomy and when they're giving robots citizenship. We have to begin to understand that. So I'm just going to move forward from there and go into what I want to say, which is I think one of the major things we could do when we come together is to go over how we moving, why we moving the way we moving, why we do the things we do. I think when we teach and give like, for example, I have questions. I would like to know, you know, about the red writing and why it being in all lowercase. And, you know, I don't want to come and accuse you of, well, this does nothing, this does. What I should come in asking is the question that I'm asking, which is, can you explain to me the purpose and the reason of the upper and lowercase writing, where you gathered that information and knowledge from, and how it applies and what makes it effective? So when we ask intelligent questions, then we can get intelligent answers to be able to know why something is being done a certain way or what brought you to the conclusion of that. And then we can start building from there. Islam?
Sure, absolutely. Do you have a Black's Law Dictionary 1st through 4th edition anywhere around nearby, Nobility?
Yeah, I have all 1st through 10. Now, I want to say this about Black Law Dictionary because I want to make sure everybody is aware. Black Law Dictionary comes out every 20 years. They bring out a new edition every 20 years. The statutes that they passed in the era during the 20 years of the Black Law Dictionary that they're passing laws is the definitions that they're using for those laws that they're applying. So if we go back to the 1st edition, and in this time, right now, they're using the 10th edition. So when we go back to the 1st edition, and if we try to apply it to now, then it's not going to apply. So we just want to be careful with that and understand that Black Law Dictionary comes out every 20 years. And so we got to kind of, because the law is steady evolving. The law is spiritual. So by the law being spiritual, it's forever changing, ever going. You know, we got the letter of the law, the spirit of the law, et cetera, et cetera. So we want to be real careful on when we start grabbing definitions from certain Black Law dictionaries on if the meaning of that is actually going to apply with what we're doing right at this time. Okay, but yeah, I got that. So
I will say this about that. Go ahead, Nobility. I apologize. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. What I do is I could pull the actual dictionary up and bring it up on my screen and open it up and go to whatever section you want. And then if you want to share the screen with me, then it'll be on my screen. So while you talking, I'm gonna pull it up. I'm gonna bring it up. Yeah, and you want me, what you want me to look up? And which edition do you want me to look up?
The 1st edition.
Okay.
The 1st through the 4th, which is what our grant sheet discusses the definitions.
Okay. I'm gonna pull that up while you got.
Can you see the chat?
Yes, I can see the chat.
Okay, okay. So I'm going to put the term in there. Right there. Okay. Let me first explain that justice, and I call almost justice, President Bay and and this is, I wanted to say this to the ones on the call, to the Moors on the call. Justice President Cannon Bay and I had a connection in our conversations that we've had over the last couple of few days. And the reason that I am honored that he's here is because I know that even if we have some differences where, and this goes for all Moors, okay? This is not just this unification demonstration, but this goes for all Moors. First of all, none of the demonstrations that we've done previously, you know, in the past, et cetera, were perfected yet to the degree that they are today. So we won't always say things where we agree with one another. Okay? Let's make that clear. We're not always going to agree. But we do have to agree to disagree and be peaceable and honorable about that. The Moors on this call know how, you know, we take the majority of our foundational teachings from several different places. But we go back as far as we can, because that's where, when you know where you've been, you know where you're going. We go back as far in the ancient records as we can go back. If we could go all the way back and see, we have no beginning, which is why we have no end. But we don't have to always agree. We do have to love one another. We do have to be there for one another, and we have the obligation not to cast spells that are not proper, noble, honorable spells where each other is concerned. Okay. Now, the reason that I'm honored that you're here is because I know that even though we don't always agree on everything, we're still brothers and sisters, all of us. We're always going to be that. That's always going to be the case. It's never going to change. So we might as well get used to it and enjoy it. With regard to what you said about the older dictionaries and changing with the times and all of that, we're doing just the opposite. We're actually going as far back, because that's where our ancestors are and were. We're returning to the ancient ways of our foremothers and forefathers. And in order to do that, we can't look at the Black's Law Dictionary that the hybrids put out today and all of that. They all openly admit that they change the definitions according to whatever it is that's trending. And we don't need trending. We want the oldest, because we know that the oldest is going to be as close to what our ancestors had in mind when they wrote the law. So we don't even look at newer dictionaries. We look at the oldest one. And that's a teaching that we got from our teachers who have given us the principles that we need in order to free ourselves and be where we are right now. If we had changed with the way the hybrids say, okay, we changed the definition of that word. Well, they're not the Phoenicians, we are. So we always go back to the oldest ones, and that's not going to change at all. In fact, we're actually looking for the oldest. Just one moment. We're looking at records at the Vatican that's going back even further than that. So, do you have the definition there of capitis diminutio minima and capitis diminutio media and capitis diminutio maxima?
Okay, I got the Black Law Dictionary up. If you give me the screen, I'll be able to share it. And I did hear everything that you were saying. So I just want to give this insight.
Okay.
The Most High made us not to stand still. When water sits and it sits, that water becomes stagnant. It becomes diluted and polluted.
That's true.
Okay. We are people that keep evolving. And as the times evolve, we too must evolve with the times. That, I think, is the greatest mistake. The greatest mistake. Because we know when we started studying civics that we started off as a family. And families became tribes, and tribes became clans, and clans became nations. It shows an evolution of the societies that we live in and how they began and how and where we are today. And we are going somewhere else that's going to be even greater than that. So if we keep looking to the past, then we'll never see what's ahead of us because we're too busy. It's a reason they make the rearview mirror in a car smaller than they make the windshield of a car. So we have to begin. I think it froze up. Did it freeze up? Can you hear me?
It's because, I think that it's because we didn't know our true history that we got off into all of the stuff we're freeing ourselves from. But now that we're knowing our history and things are unfolding, the truth is unfolding. Why was it that they hid the history? They hid it because that's our greatness. Go ahead.
Go ahead, that our history is not great. What I'm saying is somewhere between, and I'm gonna use this as an example. Just in the 60s and right now the ball got dropped with our people. And we know how it got dropped. It got dropped because they stopped putting the drugs into our communities, et cetera, and stagnate it and a lot of our people started using drugs. So the point I'm making is that they got a saying, where you from is where you at. We can go back a few hundred years and change anything that happened hundreds of years ago, but we're able to change tomorrow. And when we start thinking on the principles of changing tomorrow versus steady digging up our history, when we already know and are very well enlightened, especially those on this call that are enlightened about our true history, there's no government on earth that's arguing with us about, is this our land? No one is arguing that fact. No government and no other race can really argue that. Hands down, we know it's ours. Hands down, they know it's ours. So it's like we keep beating a dead horse on arguing, trying to prove, trying to lean what's already ours. We don't have to do that. But we do have to run and control what's ours. We got to get to that point in that understanding of learning how to control what we already have. The claiming of it is done already. The land belonging to us, being Moors, it done already. The prophecies already stipulate it's ours, it's our inheritance, et cetera, et cetera. So, but we still have a role to play and a job to do, being those that come into the light. And you know, we don't take the light, like they say, and put it inside the cabinet. We set it on top of the cabinet so everybody can see. So in doing that, again, we have to be careful about how we move, how we teach, and not to teach people in a way. We want to teach people in a way that empowers them and not stagnates them. We want to teach people in a way so that they could feel active and a part of the movement itself, and not just us, a couple of individuals are trying to perpetuate and teach and do everything. But we want each individual to understand and know that the role that each one of us play in the formation of our government and the perpetuation of our race and our people. And so if we empower the people with the right knowledge, then we only as weak as our weakest link. And so we don't want to have any weak links, but at the same token, we can't overlook that the universe creates things. Everything is not equally as strong, and every person, an individual, is not going to be as equally as strong. Every Moor is not going to be as intelligent as every Moor, and we have to realize that, and we got to put certain checks and balances in place to offset and to protect those that don't comprehend things that we may comprehend. And so if we start doing that, I think we'll start seeing more unification. And if we start teaching just the basic, well, this is where this come from, and et cetera, and we explain it to where 3-year-olds, we should be able to explain it wherever 3-year-old watch the video, they can understand it. And we really have to teach on that type of level. But let me get your okay, what's the word you say? Let me see if this is a search version first of all. Let's see if I can just type it in and it pop up.
Okay. It's capitis, dimiutio.
Okay, wait. Let me just check it and see if this is a search version first. If it's actually search.
And again, Morris, this is an exercise in unity. Can we hear what our brothers and sisters have to say, whether we agree or disagree, and still be honorable, respectful?
Okay, this is a search version. Okay, now can you spell it for me? One word at a time. We're looking at one at a time. C-A.
It's in the chat.
It's in the chat.
Yeah, there is an echo. And Justice, I'm going to use you just for a second, just to keep the echo while I say what I have to say, and then I'll unmute. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Justice. Sorry. Okay. What I want to say is this is an exercise in unity where if we, we need to be able to hear one another. We need to be able to hear one another. We can't not listen to one another just because they may not be saying the same thing we say. Now, anything that we say, we can point to it in the law. Just one second. I see something in the chat. Justice Jure, that's good. Justice Jure says in the chat, I have personally done all the research work and many more years of it. At 16 years old, I worked as a postmaster and found out about all red letters. That was 50 years ago. Yes, we do want to hear. We want to be able to hear. We want to hear what he said, what any of us have to say. We still need to listen to one another. And then when a question is asked, it's a lot easier for us to remain unified. And I want to say this. Let me put this on the public record right now. The Moorish National Republic federal government, which is all of us, is 100% in unity with the United States of America Republic government. I just want to put that on the public record because we are. And it does not matter whether we agree or disagree. We're still in unity. We still have the same blood running through our veins. We're still one. So let's keep that in mind, and let's hear President Cannon Bey out. And President Cannon Bey, just forgive my mind for I'm going to honor. I call everyone Justice. So sometimes it comes out. Let me see. Are you there? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, love. I'm not at all offended. I'm not at all offended. I understand.
Islam. Thank you.
It's searching for it.
Okay.
It's searching for it.
Okay.
And again, what I would say when we start getting it, you know, Bali is a master teacher. And when we follow the words of the prophet and listen to what he teaches, then, you know, we don't do nothing but elevate. And so what I want to say about the dictionary, the Black Law Dictionary, is that we really have to understand that the words in the Black Law Dictionary are not enforceable words. A dictionary and the meanings in dictionaries are not enforceable. What is enforceable is the definition that's written in the law. So when the words that's in the Black Law Dictionary are written into an actual law, then it can be enforced. But just taking words from the dictionary and we use them, we can't enforce them that way. They have to literally, if we wrote a law right now, we have to have a definition section of that law, and in that definition section of that law, we are saying what the meanings of the words that we're using in that particular law, what they mean, and then they would be enforceable. If we just take words from the dictionary and we're just using them and because of the meaning that they have, not enforceable. So we want to keep that in mind as well. And you know, that's the first rule of moral science: law govern all events. And so you'll find I walk right on the blade of the sword.
Just one more. I don't know where that's coming from.
No, it's a train that rides past me periodically that way.
Oh, okay. You know, I just want to say this about what you just said. What you just said. Hold on. I'm gonna let me mute the echo briefly. Yeah. What you just said is exactly. See, we're saying the same thing. We're just saying it in different ways. What you just said is that what's in the dictionary, this dictionary is not necessarily enforceable. It's what we say that's enforceable in our documents. That is our point with in capitis, dimiutio, nolo. Black Law Dictionary can't really tell us the sovereign definition. It can only speak from a citizen's point of view because that's who wrote that. However, they hypothecated it from our original dictionary. And we're the ones who actually determine what words mean when we use them. And that's another reason for our national expression being ancient English, which when you look at ancient English, it's French words, it's Spanish words, it's German words, it's Australian words, it's Chinese words, all of those words put together. We determine what those words mean and not anyone else, not Black Law Dictionary, none of them. However, we use those books as a guide, and then we do the rest. We start thinking like our prophet said, if I can just get you to think, you'll free yourself. Well, thinking does not require Black Law Dictionary dictating. However, we look at it as a guide, and then we do the rest. Islam. I yield nobility. Let me see. I don't know why I keep. Just one moment. I gotta make sure. And Justice President Cannon Bay, you can start six whenever you unmute yourself.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna mute here.
Okay, I can mute on my side. I can actually mute on my side. Hold on one second.
Okay. No, go ahead, Justice President Cannon. If the definition there?
I had a phone call coming in. I gave it to the secretary.
Okay.
Hold on one second. I'm going down through it now looking for it.
Okay. One thing I want us all to keep in mind is that we, you know, we can no longer afford to not hear one another. We can't afford to not hear one another. We have to hear one another. Because it's really hearing, being able to hear has everything to do with our relationship with ourselves first, then the others. Okay? So even if we're in a relationship and we don't always agree, we still have to be able to hear so that the relationship is preserved. That is, from the level that we're doing it today, is diplomacy. It's brotherhood and sisterhood. It's nationhood and it's governing. We honor all that the governments of the earth say. We honor all of that. We must honor one another when we speak. And that's something that, you know, I've had to work on because I'm a Leo. Leos assert. I have to work on that. And I believe, Justice Cannon, you were saying that you had a Leo nearby as well, President Cannon, as well. I'm going to mute here.
Yeah, our Secretary of State is a Leo, but we got maybe about 4 or 5 Leos that's walking around here. Okay, so now I'm getting that. Let's see, CAPITALIS, residus, and I'm looking for D, right? Yeah. Let's see. Capitis data. This is the 4th edition.
On the right-hand side of page 261.
Right-hand side of page 261. Let's see. What page is this on?
Down at the bottom.
261, 62, 61.
I believe that's where I started.
Well, I think I just saw it on the left-hand side. Let's go back down.
It's capitis dimiutio minima.
They got the meanest.
This one is diminution.
Oh, okay. CAPITAL.
It's CAPITI.
Okay.
Yes. There it is, right there.
You see it?
Yeah. Capitis diminutio maxima, capitis diminutio media, and capitis diminutio minima. They're one right there.
Do I need to make the screen bigger? Do I need to make the screen bigger?
Yes, please. There it is. The one that says capitis diminutio maxima, capitis diminutio media, and capitis diminutio minima.
Okay, so let me bring it up. Okay. Okay, I got it on the screen.
And we're going to take about 10 minutes more on this
okay.
Because of we want to make sure that we honor the time of the year.
Okay. Well, you got the floor.
No, you go ahead.
Well, I'm trying to get to the bottom.
Okay, I'll go ahead. Okay, I'll go ahead. I'll take it since you have it pulled up there.
Right.
Do you mind if I mute you for just a moment so that the echo stops?
I'm going to mute me right now.
Okay. All right. Capitis diminutio maxima, the highest and most comprehensive loss of status. Need I say more about capitis diminutio maxima? But let's read it. This occurs when a man's condition was changed from one of freedom to one of bondage when he became a slave. It swept away with all its rights. It swept away with it all rights of citizenship and all family rights. Capitis dimiutio media, a lesser or medium loss of status. This occurred where a man lost his right to citizenship, but without losing his liberty. It carried away also the family rights. And then capitis diminutio minima, the lowest or least comprehensive degree of loss of status. And capitis diminutio minima, if you could scroll up so we can see the rest of that, and I'm not sure this is a revised edition, but capitis diminutio minima, hold for just a moment. It occurred when a man's family relations alone were changed. It happened upon the arrogation of a person who had been his own master, sui juris, or upon the emancipation of one who had been under the patria potestas, which is the patriarchy. It left the rights of liberty and citizenship unaltered. So when you, in the earlier unrevised Black's Law Dictionary, it says that that is done with the use of capital letters, that the loss of status occurs with the use of capital letters. We did a video on this about 2 weeks ago where we went through the dictionary. We went through an unabridged dictionary, and we went down the list on capital, capitalization, capitalism, and all of that. And all it talks about is what is capitalism? It is a loss of status by the use of capital letters, period. Okay, and that loss of status is noted by the use of capital letters. That's in the earliest Black's Law Dictionary. Yours is a 1891. There are the Black's Law unrevised 4th edition speaks about the letters. Okay. But then even again, what does the word capitalism and capitalize, what does the word capitalize mean? It means to use letters that are not the original. And those are not even letters. Capital letters are not even letters. They're glyphs. They're hieroglyphs. They're words. It means more than one thing. So if you look on the name change and judicial proclamations that all of us filled out, all of us, does it not refute the use of capital letters? Do the name, and that's a question for all more, so go up your name change document. Does it refute the fraud of capital letters?
Point of interest.
Nobility, go ahead, Justice President.
And, you know, on our calls, we say point of interest. That just means whenever you yield the floor, then I have a question. You know, you didn't have to stop right away. You could have, But this is what I'm going to say, know what you already tell us, we must be what we know. So right now, what I have to do is more homework and due diligence. And so you have to point me to the sources that you're saying. Right now, I don't see the source of the capitalization and what we just read. It does not show me anything stipulating about up or lowercase lettering. So, know what you already say, we must be what we know.
Let me ask you about your name change and judicial proclamation, because I pointed to those two.
Okay, right.
Do they refute the fraud of capital letters?
I understand that's a document that was created by the consulate, correct?
No.
What name?
The name change and judicial proclamations were created by, the ones that we initially were using were created by Grand Chief Taj Sharif Bey.
Okay, I was
because initially we got them off of R.B. Bey publications. and then we put them in capitis dimiutio nolo.
Okay, and again, I love Tosh Rebate. So I'm still saying, know what you tell us to be what we know, and I think this is a big issue and problem that we have in our community right now. We have a lot of people that's just accepting information and not really getting to the bottom of where the information comes from. How is it? How the source where it's coming from? How is it applied? Where it's being derived from, and understanding that how it should be used, and if it's going to be effective or not effective in the way that it's being presented or used. So right now at this moment, I can't say one way or the other if it's relevant or not relevant. I can't say that, but I would say that I need more information as far as for me to really try to even demonstrate writing and red writing and just all lowercase lettering. The other thing would be I would need to see the law of ours that stipulates to the letter the overstanding of the upper and lowercase lettering. Again, I'm a lawman, so I'm not sent here to abolish the prophet nor the law, but to fulfill. So in me fulfilling that law and overstanding of law, I understand that, their words and their laws mean what they say it mean, and then our laws is say what we say it mean. And that's the power that each of us have, that the Most High gave us. And that's what Noble Jew Ali wanted for us when he stipulated that he desired for us not to be an inferior people. So when we do look up the word inferior in the Black Laws Dictionary, it does state that he who writes the law is superior and he who's subject to it is the inferior. So again, we want it, for sure, we have to elevate ourselves by being able to write our own laws and to govern ourselves according to our laws that we write, as well as the enforcement of the laws that we write. We want to be able to enforce. So at this time, I yield the floor back to you, but I do need more. Maybe you will be able to put it on a PowerPoint, and I think that'll help a lot of people too begin to understand if we start putting things in PowerPoints and be able to present it, and then they able to take that and go find it on their own and research and study Islam.
Okay, so I appreciate that you said that, because I put a link in the chat to the video that has all of that on it. I did several presentments on that. One of them is called Capitalize or Be Capitalized. And we go through the dictionary, each word, then we go to the law. Yes, I have done, in the chat, I have done many videos on where that information comes from. And we use an older Black's Law Dictionary, which is more closely related to the original and intended definitions of the words, where it shows in capitis dimiutio minima, media, and maxima, and it says that it is done, that the loss of status is noted by the use of capital letters. If you look at all of and again, we're pointing now to different sources of this information. If any of us take the time to look at the name change in judicial proclamations, and then let's look at those, yes, because they refute the fraud of the capital letters. But let's also look at what the hybrids do when they're violating. Let's look at that. Whenever the hybrids are violating, the only way they've ever been able to do it is in black letters and capital letters. Black capital letters. Any warrant, any bills, any debt that they have ever transferred, have you seen it in any other color and in all lowercase? Have you ever seen any bills or any warrants or anything coming from those fake courts? What does it look like? Look at that. We got to look at that. There's a reason for that. Islam. Go ahead.
I just want to give a reference, brother, on your bleed ill Tennessee territory. I coached high school basketball for years in this territory, and I don't do the bank account deal. And if I get a check from doing services on my land, I'll take it to a local package store, to get it cashed. And there are some students that were in the classes that I had at the high school at least 20, 25 years ago. And I went into this particular package store to have the check cashed, and I said to the girl that was in there, that was in the classes at the high school where I coached at, I said, well, I'm going to sign mine in red ink. She said, no, I can't do that. So that right there was a life affirmation for me, that that was a degree of knowledge that was to come, and we were supposed to embrace and then start to effectuate. So that was just my testimony about this red writing and in lowercase.
Yes. And the reason it's being taught, thank you so much for that, Nobility. The reason that information is such, it seems like it's such a quagmire, is because it's against what the hybrids taught us in their inferior schools. Now, we talk about inferior courts all day, but we will not talk about those inferior schools. Why do we think, are we comfortable with what they taught us? There it is, right there again, Justice, on your screen.
Point of interest.
Capitis, diminutio maxima, name in all capitals.
Point of interest.
But again, let's look at what they do. Whenever there is a violation, how do they know it?
Point of interest.
Now, why do we sign our name change in red in all lower, or in red ink with a red thumbprint? Why do we do that? Go ahead, Justice. President Cannon Bay, go ahead. I yield.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. I thought y'all couldn't hear me. What I'm going to say is this. I'm not caught up in any way with how they taught us writing with black or blue ink, or purple or yellow, or if it was, orange ink. The thing I'm most concerned with is just the law itself and how we apply it. That's all.
So you know the bullshit too, don't you, Cannon Bay?
All I'm ever concerned with is the law and how the law is being applied. And again, as I say, we read many great things. We could read all kind of things, and we could take those things that we read and start applying it certain ways. Not necessarily meaning that it's being applied the correct way. So my greatest thing is at all times making sure before I put my name out there or I teach somebody something, I want to make sure what I'm teaching them is solid, not from my understanding or overstanding of it or what I read, but in law that it's solid. Because I know law, again, is the only thing that can be enforced. Our beliefs, what we think, all that stuff is irrelevant. And this is how I'm saying we as Moors nationwide can be unified, because the law will unify us when we start just only demonstrating what's written in our law and in the law. That's what unifies us. That's what will put us all on the same page. That's what, we can legislate that in our law, that all our, whatever is written in all lowercase. But then it needs to be able to be seen in our law. We should be able to go to our law and show that this is what it is. And this is how we do this. And there's nothing wrong with that. But if we just simply read something and then start just trying to apply it because you know, we read it somewhere they're saying this, we can very easily overcome that. And that's what I was saying about going in the past. When we start building on the future of what we're doing and what we're building and what we say things mean, we snatch the carpet from under everybody, because they can never come back and snatch the carpet from under us saying, well, it actually means this. No, it does not. Not in our society. In our society, we say a dog is a cat and a cat is a dog. Guess what? That's what it is. And so when we start understanding that power that we have, that free will to be able to create and discern how we live and our protocols and procedures and prerequisites that we set up as a people and as a nation, then now that you'll begin to see more uniformity within the nation, and with us being Moorish Americans. And again, you know, I commend you, sister, for your diligence, your efforts, your work, everything that you've been doing. But we're gonna have to have the hard questions. We're gonna have to get into the meanings of not just the words that we use, but how we using them, as well as how we applying them. But not only that, our agencies, our government, the structure, how we run it, how it functions, why do we choose this type of government over that type of government? We got to literally tear everything down and build it up from the ground up ourselves. And when we do that, there's no doubt or contradiction in what's being built, because the people together had a hand in it. And if they didn't play a role or have a hand in it, they didn't have a hand in it or play a role in it because they neglected to take their place and be accounted for, to have their voice heard. Because, see, we could come on these conference calls and you will hear the same few voices week after week after week after week. And you can yield the floor, and a lot of times it'll sound like crickets if you're not speaking, and it should not be that way. We need people's minds to grow. We need to open up the windows in their mind so truth can find her way into their mind and make herself at home with them and begin to resonate with them. Because, you know, each one of us, and again, like I said before, the different degrees and adept chambers that each of us have lived throughout our lives are going to give us different perspectives of what we're viewing, what we're looking at, and what we're perceiving. And so you may, you know, if me and you face to face and I draw a 6 on the ground, yeah, that's a 6. You say, no, that's a 9. But I have to be humble enough to walk around on your side and look at it from your side. And then I say, yeah, that's a 9. But now you done walked on my side, you like, that's a 6. So when we begin to understand,
all about.
You feel what I'm saying?
Yes,
so when we begin to understand that, exactly, when we begin to understand that and just be humble enough to listen to the other side, to listen to other Moors, that, because all of us are extremely intelligent. I don't think any of our people are not intelligent. I think that a lot of our common sense have been kind of blurred by the education system that we came up in. But we know that the Most High is waking us up every day, and we're opening our eyes and we're waking up. And like the book say, he'll make a simple man, make a wise man look like a fool. That's like yesterday when I was at the attorney. I told him, man, I only got a high school education. But when I was leaving, he was like, you ain't fooling me. You got more than a high school education. But I don't. You know what I'm saying? But it just shows you the power that resonate in this melanin, and the power of this melanin that's in this skin, that when our DNA starts being activated, it ain't no limit. It's infinite knowledge and wisdom that the universe would download into us if we are seeking the truth, if we are sincere and hard to receive the messages that the ancestors are giving to us. And when they see us actually seeking, and when they see us actually trying to evolve and execute, the more information they will give to us to be able to keep going down the path that we're going down. And so I don't want to take over your call, but you know I'm gonna yield. So I'm gonna yield the floor right there, sister, and give you the flow back. And I got the link, but that's on Scribe. That's on Scribe. I thought you said it was a YouTube video.
Someone put that in the chat.
Yeah, I don't think I got Scribe to get in there, but this the video right here on YouTube too, right?
Yeah, the link that I put was, yes, the video that shows even more of the research.
And this is what I'm going to tell people that's on this call. This is what I'm going to tell people that's on this call. What they should be doing after this call is going to watch that video, and they should have a pen and paper, and they should be taking notes. And if they got questions, they should be writing their questions down. And see, we've got to get in the habit of, guess what? Are we going to sit here till you ain't got no more questions? We're going to answer every question. And there is no such thing as an unintelligent question or a dumb question. But we should be able to answer every question that's thrown our way, especially when we the presenter of some information. We got to be able to not only, if we're given the information, but also being able to stand our ground with the information we're given and the reason why, as well as the source, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You know what I'm saying? And then everybody will start growing from that. Islam, my phone.
Thank you so much, President Cannon Bay. We're honored that you're here. Thank you for all of that. You're absolutely right, and I will tell you this, that we agree. And here's where I agree with the majority of what you said. Again, we can point to all the different places. We can point to cemeteries and say they only use capital letters there. We can point to war rants and bills of attainder and all of that and say they only use capital letters there. We can also point to where the changes happen with the capital letters. We can point to how the hybrids always say that, you know, they rewrote this and they rewrote that. All they did was capitalize it and put it in black ink. But watch that video when you have an opportunity, President Cannon Bay, because I know you're really you're just busy as the more. And
I'm not. This is what I do all day, every day. So I'm not in no rush to get off or anything like that. I do this all day. This is what I'm here for, to do just this, to build. And I'm gonna say this, that I'm going to show you, I'm going to show biblically from the scriptures why they use the all capital. And I'm going to show you what the Europeans believe when we start getting into their belief structure and system of what they believe. And I give you a little jewel of that right now. What they believe is that when u.s.a.r died, they also died. And when he was raised, they was raised. So the Europeans right now in our society, they actually believe that they're living right now in the spirit. And that we, being under the law, and the ones who the Most High gave the law to, are actually dead because they figure the law makes us dead. And we are locked in or obligated to uphold and keep and maintain the law, which is a correct statement. We are ordained by the Most High. We are ordained by the Most High to maintain and keep the law. And so they through u.s.a.r was given the ability to come into the kingdom of God through faith and grace. Whereas for us, we have to maintain the law. And the thing of it is that's where they kind of made a mistake by saying that we were dead. And I got actual movie clips where from different movies, different presidents is talking, and in one particular clip, the guy says, well, Mr. President, take it easy. You know, you win an election. And he says, well, that's the same thing that another president thought until some dead people in Illinois started voting. So they show you that they refer to us as dead in certain movies, and that John Kennedy ended up winning that election because the dead people in Illinois started voting. And so I had to get down to, why do they say this? Why are they referring to us as being dead? And it came to me last time I was in the Dismal Crypts. The Most High revealed it to me in the book, and now I understand it. And so I wrote an actual law on it, which is called Repatriation is a Rebirth. And in that law, I explain it where not only they can understand that they're wrong, but that and that they miscalculated what they was teaching, and them believing that, because the scriptures would tell you that that it was somebody, but they saw Moses and Abraham and somebody else, and they was trying to talk to him, and he said, Yahshua, matter of fact, it's Yahshua. He said, isn't it not written, my Father is the Father of the living and not the dead? So we know that we can never die. We know that we only transfer our vibrations, raise higher, and we leave this shell of a body, which people think is us, that we know is not us, and we elevate to the next higher planes of evolution in life. But they don't understand that we're not dead because we can't be dead, because there is no such thing as death.
Can I interject here with regard to that? What do we expect them to say? They're going to say the opposite of what the truth is, because that's what they do. So then, if anything, we can listen to what they say and say, okay, we know it's the opposite of that, so let's go search the opposite.
But it's truth. But it's truth to what they're saying. Listen to what they're saying. Listen to what they're saying. Mm-hmm. What they're saying is they was without God and had no law. And had no law in the world. This is why they hit each other on the head, drag the woman in the cave with the club, and you got a bigger beast of meat than me, I might kill you and take the meat. They had no laws. And we came in and started teaching them the law. We came in and started enforcing the law on them. And they have a real resentment about the law itself. That's why they are law unto themselves, which I got a whole PowerPoint on this that I'm breaking down. But this is why they are law unto themselves, and we see it every day in the society, how they treat their people versus how they treat our people. And so when we start getting more into the psychology of these people, we begin to be able to break them down even more, to even more civilize them to who we are and to who they are, because they have the wrong understanding, and it's been taught to them over and over again. This is how they've been raised. So now, when you say, okay, well, that's not true to a certain, but it is true, because they didn't have the law, and we are the ones that did what you said on every call. You've been saying it. We gave them that. We did this. We, and they're saying the same, and they're saying the same thing. We didn't have no law. We didn't have no God in the world. To what? Till we came and we started, hey, what you doing? Oh, man, you can't do that. You can't have sex with animals, man. Oh, no, write that down. They doing that. And, oh, man, man, you can't be sleeping with your sister, man. You can't, the preacher, Clefro Dollar, is talking about sin, and he's saying, like, that it's because of the law that it's sin in the world. No, it's not because of the law that it's sin in the world. And that definition I sent you on law out the Bible, it breaks down that it came from us observing their hearts. By us observing them in the things they was doing, we wrote more laws and more laws and more laws. And by them not ever, see, we always had the law, because we was in the beginning. We always been.
We are the law.
I just said that. We always had the law. We always been here since the beginning. Yeah. And because the Most High gave us the law, and I almost could for surely tell you the law is intertwined with this melanin. It's a natural thing. The law is embedded in us, in our hearts and in our minds, as he say. And in our hearts and in our minds, we know it's that melanin. And so that melanin gives us the ability to be lawful, to be just, to be righteous, versus them not having that. So when they talk about the circumcision in the skin, that's what they're talking about. We're the circumcised.
Okay. May I interject here with regard to the hybrid?
Yes.
And let me, I'm going to mute just this moment just because of the echo, only because of the echo. Okay. Okay. We don't spend as much time looking at the hybrid simply because we have so much work to do among our own. They teach us how to govern. They've been teaching us how to govern. We're governing based on what we see. And we're governing based on what our ancestors have told us to do first and foremost. So we're not trying to convince them of anything because, believe it or not, they already know. They've been known. We're the ones who didn't know. So we're spending our time making sure that our minds are renewed and transformed and deprogrammed from what they taught us and reprogrammed by our own selves and our own ancestral energy. So we don't really, you know, what they say, at the point that we're at right now, they can say it or not say it, it doesn't matter. What matters to us is what we say. That's where we are with all of this, is hybrid. Say what you want to say. You can tell the truth because some of them are telling the truth. And then you have the ones that's still trying to, you know, throw shade or whatever. Well, and control the narrative, actually. That's what they're really trying to do, but they can't do that because we have our own voice. But the only reason we've gotten to this point where some of them are telling the truth and some of them are not is because we stand and we speak our own truth. If we hadn't stood and spoke our own truth, they'd have stuck together like they've been doing and continue to do the fraud stuff.
No.
So we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on them.
Listen.
But what we do want to
one second. Okay, because
go ahead.
This what I'm teaching is not just.
I'm sorry. Wait a minute. I'm sorry. Hold on for just a minute.
This what I'm teaching right now, and what I'm talking about is not just for their education. It's also for our people education. Because, see, a lot of our people don't recognize that we the fallen angels that's in this book. A lot of our people don't realize that the God that was strolling through that garden talking about Adam, where are you, was us. A lot of our people not understanding that we're not Adam and Eve, but we are the male and female created in the likeness and image of the Most High. We were created before that. Again, when we get into the Holy Quran or the Moorishe Simple American, jure lets us know time never was when man was not. So if time never was when man was not, we know when we read in Genesis that Adam had a creation date. He was created from the dirt. So we have to try, because so many of our people have been indoctrinated by the church with the wrong perspective of what they've been reading. And when we educate them correctly to that, you're going to see a major growth. And this is why the prophet also said a lot of his best Moors are still in the churches. So we have to learn to talk the language that a lot of our people are still hypnotized with. And when we do that, we shake their spirit and bring them back to remembering what actually happened and transpired, and the role that we play and that they play. And so when we read the Holy Quran of the Moorishe Simple of America, and I hear what you're saying about the hybrid, but I also know that the Quran is very, is very specific and very enlightening to the fact that you, our woman, is God, and if you are God, according to it, all nations of the earth and all people here, including the hybrid, have been given one breast to suck, and that was yours. And so if we understand that, and we being that loving and forgiving God, we're going to practice love and not hate. We're going to demonstrate the love first, and that means to educate not just Moors, but all people. And jure also stated that the rest of the world still had a whole lot to learn from the Asiatic race. So we still, when he said we're going to feed the world again, he wasn't talking about food, but intelligence and information and all kind of things. So it wasn't just food that you eat, what he was talking about. And so we never want to limit ourselves or put ourselves in a box to think like others, or to even show that, like, well, we got a resentment, because we don't. And we know that our ancestors made mistakes back then, which is other reasons why the hybrid dislike us so much. And that's even in the book telling you why they dislike us so much. So they and they're very specific, and this is what he says, and you can see it right now, so that you know that this book does not lie if you know how to read it. He said, remember that he's talking to the hybrids. He said, remember, these is God's people. Don't ever get beside yourself and think that you're better than the roots that support the branches. He say when we reach our fullness, he's going to remove the stupor off of his people. Guess what? They reach their fullness. The European race is declining every day. They are not reproducing. That means they reach their fullness. When they reach their fullness and their numbers start declining, we start waking up immediately. We are waking up all across the world. So again, I'm going to yield it right there, but I just wanted to shed that light because that's light that needs to be shed. Because the Bible is a spiritual book. It's a book of law. It's a law book. And to read the stories and to show us how the law should be applied is very important, extremely important. Islam.
No, thank you so much, President Cannon Bey. We appreciate all that you have said and shared with us. I think that this meeting is important because we did need to come together and connect like this. Again, and more, you know, we don't always have to agree, but we do have to hear one another and we have to love one another. And I think that this is well worth it. I think that spending time together like this, President Cannon Bey, is well worth it. It's well worth it. We have to learn to hear one another because we're the government on the land. We didn't think we were, but all of us, all Moors, are the government on this land. We have to hear one another. So I want to say that everything that you said we don't disagree. We may not agree where the splitting of the hairs are. And the splitting of the hairs is a thing where we just need to point in the law to what we're talking about, and we've done that in the video, which I apologize. I should have sent it to you some days earlier had I known that was going to be the question, because then that could have answered the question prior to your coming here. However, that's okay. It's okay but as long as you're here, we're glad you're here. We honor your presence and hopefully, President Cannon Bey, will you come back and visit us again sometime?
Oh, most definitely.
Okay,
most
great.
Definitely. And you can take the screen back too.
Thank you. Thank you. We just,
I think this was a good
build.
Yeah, I think this was an extremely good build. And again, we have to be Moors got to learn to be more patient. And one thing we definitely have to stop doing is pointing fingers and telling somebody they don't know what they're talking about versus just show me. Show me what you're talking about. Show me where you get that from. Show me why you do that. Show. And showing, then we know. If a person not showing,
they'll be pointing to the book, dictionary, the law, the Constitution, the treaty, all of that.
Now I did hear you quote Article 1, Section 9 of the United States Constitution.
It's actually the Constitution for the United States. Article 1, Section 9, Clause 4, that speaks about no capitation or other direct tax. The word capitation, again, we're still talking about the root word. Okay, and we could go into that a little further, but we won't do it now because we're already a little bit over the normal call time that we have. But I'd love for you to look at that because even in the Constitution,
you got something to do.
I don't have anything other than this work to do, but I'm going to honor the time of the Moors because I know that they have things to do.
Well, you know,
and they come first. It's all about the people.
I understand that. But I would like to say this because I have experienced this. My conference calls are at 6 o'clock in the afternoon. And I've been on calls that last to 2 in the morning. And I always leave it open to the people to make their own decision. If they want to stay in the call, they're free to do so. If they're ready to go, then we'll go. But if it's because sometimes we could close out and people still they still got questions. They're still involved in the conversation. Because guess what? A lot of people are at home with other so-called African Americans who have not waken up in their household, and they starve for congregation with their own brothers and sisters that are Moorish Americans. And so I began to understand that by us being scattered all over the country, it's our social time to socialize with each other, to get to know one another. So when somebody say something about Light, I can say, well, I know her personally, and that don't sound like anything she would say. But if I don't know you, then they can say stuff like that, and I can't defend because I don't know you. So a lot of times, after we take care of the call and we do this, we sometimes have just social conversation, so individuals can hear each other, that you can get to know your other family members across this country that you may never get to meet in person. But it's just, and that's just a suggestion. I'm just only throwing out a suggestion. You know, I don't know if you have children. I don't know if you need to cook. I don't know if you have a husband. I don't know. So I'm just throwing it out there for future references. It don't have to be tonight. But I'm just saying, I do this. I will literally stay on here to tomorrow if people wanted to stay on here and talk. All the way to tomorrow or the day after. You know, because my main agenda and goal is we don't have enough time you know, we got unlimited time, but we don't have a lot of time. You know what I'm saying? But, okay, I'm talking too much. I use the floor. Go ahead and close out, sister. Go ahead and close it.
I'm glad you feel comfortable enough to do that, President Candidate. We appreciate it. Absolutely. I do. If it was just you and I, we could go until 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. But on these calls are actually for the Moors, for all of us to connect. And then the things that they hear, the Moors will go back and do their own study. They don't really need to hear Light talk until 2 o'clock in the morning. They do their own study on what they heard in 5 minutes, and they got a whole, you know, perspective that is the law. And so we honor their time as well, because it's so important. And I know that's why the Moors keep coming back to these calls, is because we honor their time. And we honor hearing from them, hearing everything they have to say. Whether we agree or disagree is not the point. Let's hear one another and then do some research on our own so we can still come together. Because this is one thing I know about everything that we say, about everything that the Moors say, is even if it seems like it might be diametrically opposed, it's really not. When we really just keep going down that rabbit hole, and looking and looking and looking, we're going to find a connection somewhere. And to me, that's most important out of everything we could ever do, is to find the connection. I don't care what we have to do to find it, let's find it. And to me, that's most important. Thank you again. We honor the work that you are doing, President Candidate, and please keep doing what you're doing, because it's helping our nation. It's helping all the nations of the earth, as is the work of all the Moors. I'm just excited that we can have this time together. So to the heirs that are here, if you have any questions or comments, the heirs that are on the phone, or any wisdom that you want to put into the call, please do so now. You can start to unmute.
Islam, honor and respect all Moors. I was just curious about the wisdom that President Bey was giving concerning the scriptures, and I just had a question to ask on that part.
Okay, we have about 2 minutes that we want to go on this.
I'll speed it up quickly. Have you done the research in the languages that the scriptures were taken out of before they were given in the version of the King James book? That's my question.
No, I have not. No, I have not.
Islam.
Islam.
I am familiar that all of the scriptures come off the walls of the pyramid, though. Every story in the Bible comes from the walls of the pyramid. I am familiar with that, though.
Islam, the Aramaic, Hebrew, and Greek were utilized, and in order to get an understanding of what's in that version, truth only has one side. In that version, it would be most useful to look at the languages and then bring that forward from the languages. It gives a more crisp understanding of what we're saying and take some of the confusion out of this. How you?
Also, President Cannon Bay, you mentioned the biblioheliotext, the Bible. Do you remember the red letter versions of the Bible where only the Savior spoke in red and everybody else spoke in black? Do you remember those, President Cannon Bay? Hopefully he's still here. Just one moment. I'm hoping. If you can start. There it is. Yes.
Did it unmute? Yeah. Okay. I am familiar with, and I do have a Bible where what Yahshua is saying is written in red versus everyone else. I am very familiar with that. And again, I can only keep saying the same thing. I have no issues with red writing, purple writing, yellow writing, blue writing. My only concern is the application and law of how we're applying it, and that's it.
Islam. I would say this, that was a huge hint.
I actually made them stop selling. I actually made them stop selling red ink pens when I was in federal prison. I made them take them off the commissary because I had everybody doing red thumbprints, and they ended up taking them off the commissary. But yeah, I don't have, again, I don't want anybody to think I had issues with that. My thing is just to make sure everyone has an understanding of why you're doing what you're doing versus thinking that just looking at it and saying, oh, she crazy, look how she writing. And it's a reason you didn't just start doing that. It's a reason you started doing that, and that's what I want to get to.
Yes, and it's all in the law repeatedly, and even as this time goes by, even more affirmation is coming forward with regard to that. So having said that, I want to honor the time of the Moors. We will pick back up again tomorrow. We're having our sovereign investment symposium. No fiat is allowed at the symposium or in anything that we do. And we're going to be giving you just a small snippet of the inheritance that belongs to us, and how we're going to move forward in using our sovereign inheritance. So for those who can be here, it's at 7 o'clock Eastern time tomorrow on this same platform. We're going to introduce you to some of the documents you've seen before, some you may have not seen, and they require some hands-on deck from us in order to further possess the vast estate. Having said that, that is all I have for now, but we'll see you all again tomorrow at 7 p.m. Oh, we have these calls 3 times a week normally, on Wednesdays at 12 noon Eastern, Thursdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, and Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern.
Point of interest. I just want to say something real quick, something I read in the chat. It's a sister that was saying that I was hogging the meeting. And what I want to say is, you know, it's okay though. You know, what I would say to a person that said, you know, I address stuff in chats when I do calls. What I would say to the person that said that is, you know, at any time they wanted to say point of interest and take the floor and start teaching, they should at all times do that. Other than that, when we come on calls, our main objective and agenda is to move forward. And so we should be trying, even when we were going through their schools, they had enough sense not to leave us in the same classroom with the same teacher from Head Start all the way through high school. They had enough sense to know that you need multiple teachers at all times with different point of views and different angles to open your mind. And that's all I want to say. You know, we got to learn to practice love instead of hate so much. We got, you know, we really got to learn that. We really got to learn that. Islam, I use love.
Islam, I will say this too about that on the way, in conclusion of today's call, is that, you know, we just need to be able to hear one another. That's basically all I have to say about that, because it's more important to be unified and disagree than it is to pretend to be unified and not get it all out there on the floor. It needs to be out here. And I'm grateful that President Cannon Bay has come to speak his piece and to question that which he saw some, you know, he needed to ask the question. And we honor that, because we don't want to turn any questions away at all whatsoever from anyone, especially when they're law-based questions. So, which he is. So, with that being said, peace and grand rising to the sovereign, original, indigenous, natural, divine heir, Islam.
Peace, love, and grand rising, Lord.
Peace and rising.
Grand rising.
Light and love.
Peace and love, more.
Peace and love. What's up? Light and love.
Islam.
Rising. Islam.
Islam.
Peace.